welcome to a 10-1-10-1 review. My name is Nessa and today I want to talk about Mirthwood and how I felt after playing the game for 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours, and 1 year in-game. As a person who does not have a lot of time to play games, I think that first impressions are super important, and the first 10 minutes and hour of a game should give you the basic rundown of what it has to offer. That being said, I also know that cozy games in the farming and life sim genre have slow starts, lengthy tutorials, and might need some extra time to shine, which is why reviewing my progress at 10 hours and 1 year in game is also very important. How I feel at the 1 hour mark might change at 10 hours, and that could completely change again once I've completed a whole year in game. I won't be rating Mirthwood on a scale, but I'll definitely talk about my experiences as well as things that I liked and things I wish the game did differently. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Mirthwood is a medieval fantasy farming simulation and open-world RPG survival game developed by Bad Ridge Games. It released on November 6, 2024 for the PC and currently does not have any DLC. It does have a Seafarer expansion coming soon, though it does not have a release date just yet. The game is Steam Deck verified as of October 10, 2025. In this game, you're free to manage your own homestead, plant and harvest crops, raise animals, explore the world, fight ruffians and bandits in the wilderness, and socialize with the townsfolk to build relationships. Mirthwood retails for $24.99 USD and is available on the PC. You are a newcomer to Mirthwood after fleeing the war that has ravaged your little hometown. Now, with a fresh start in life, you set out to make the most of your situation. You meet a stranger who gives you the deed to his friend's land, where you're free to start homesteading and building your life again. The story unfolds as you learn who the stranger is and who you are in this grand scheme of things. As of this review, I have not finished the story, so I can't really say how long it is. There weren't that many main story quests I did up to the 1 year point. I was gated by my ability to take on tough encounters in order to get the quest related items, and then also gated by the seasons in which I can get item bundles in order to advance the plot. So I didn't get anywhere in 10 minutes at all. When you start Mirthwood, you are prompted to create a character. There are different customization options available for your appearance. Once you're satisfied with how your character looks, then it's time to choose an origin, class, and profession. These different backgrounds will affect your character in different ways. Choosing a land of origin will affect how your character interacts with others, which includes being more assertive, curious, or even introverted. Next, you have the choice between 3 classes, being royal, noble, or peasant. These different classes offer a buff and debuff, so your choice will depend on how you want to play the game. The professions will also provide your character with a buff and debuff. For example, if you choose to be an actor like I did, then you are more likely to be romantically inspired, but all of your weapons do less damage. On the other side, if you choose to be a rat catcher, then you're less vulnerable to hunger and disease, but you have to live with being romantically challenged, because I guess not many people want to date a rat catcher. I took my sweet time thinking about how I wanted to create my character and what buffs and debuffs I was okay with before finally starting the game after 10 minutes. The bulk of the tutorial happened during my 1 hour of play since my 10 minutes was consumed by customizing my character. The tutorial comes in the form of text on screen showing you which keyboard buttons to press in order to complete actions. Funny enough, after I changed the key binding, the tutorial was unable to recognize the key that I changed the binding to, so there would be an error when that specific help tip appeared. The controls did take me a bit to get used to, and I usually don't like changing the key binding when I'm playing a new game, but the awkward placement of the sprint button being control made it so I had to adjust before I could continue. The sprint button is toggleable, so you just have to press it once and then you're sprinting. The first thing I noticed was the graphics in this game. It reminds me so much of a medieval tapestry, and the hand-drawn art style is just very unique. I like walking up to villagers and seeing their little dialogue bubble without having to talk to them. I like being able to see the armor I equipped, so I had fashion to strive for in the future. I like that the tutorial was not very wordy or extensively hand-holdy. Things happened pretty fast in the beginning. In the span of a few minutes, I went from foraging for dinner ingredients to escaping for my life after war breaks out and my town gets razed. The combat is a little difficult for me. I was able to hit enemies but had some difficulties with dodging and inflicting heavy attacks. Still, I managed and made my way to the docks where my character bid her continent goodbye and sailed to Mirthwood. Here, you're presented with a homestead by a kind stranger who seems to have been expecting your arrival, and the world suddenly opens up after this. I like that the game lets you know you're pretty much free to do whatever you want at that point. Of course, combat continues to be a part of the game as I encounter ruffians and bandits just by simply exploring outside of town. I was really surprised that when I led a bandit into town to see if a villager would help me, nobody lifted a single finger and basically just watched me get beat up by this bandit until I passed out. Luckily, the bandit didn't steal anything from me that I know of besides my dignity, since I was dirt poor anyways, so I didn't feel too bad at the situation overall. I'm just not sure if the villagers were hazing me since I just came to Mirthwood, but it didn't feel very relieving knowing that I couldn't go into town for safety if I was being pursued, and I would have to handle my problems myself. Not intervening while I got beat up in the streets aside, when I first met the villagers and was introduced to the relationship system, I was super excited to meet and make friends. It definitely felt like a simulation game since there are different choices you can make, such as small talk, gossip, speaking intellectually, and jesting, to name a few. The villagers will respond and gain or lose relationship points from the interaction. If you look at their character cards, you can see your relationship status with them, their social and familial connections, and even see how they're feeling based on what they recently did. They also have stats that you can uncover as you become closer to them, but at this point, I obviously did not know anything about anyone. The game was already doing such a great job of making me want to talk to the villagers and build those relationships. Although there was a lot of new faces to meet, I didn't feel too intimidated by the number of people, since you can easily just greet them as you pass them for easy relationship building points as well. Already, the world of Mirthwood seemed to be so exciting, and I couldn't wait to really start growing my crops and figuring out the gameplay loop. So far, it seems as though I could do whatever I wanted as long as I got to bed before my stamina depleted, ate before my hunger meter went all the way down, and heal or ran away from fights if my HP was in the danger zone. I was having a really good time, and the hour passed by very quickly. I'm hopeful that I'll get used to the combat in the game since it seems like I'm gonna have to fight a lot. I reached Summer 11 after 10 hours of playing. I spent a lot of time working on my farm to gain money so that I could buy food instead of eating random berries that I found in the wilderness. Yes, I definitely could cook food myself, and I eventually do that, but I found right now it was just much more convenient to stop by a tavern and get some food from their selection. Some food will give you back a bit of stamina so you can keep going for a bit longer in the day, which is super helpful when I'm far away from a campsite or my homestead. The crops in this game grow pretty fast. I was harvesting almost every other day or so, and farming was pretty lucrative early on. When the season changed, some of the spring crops hung on for a few days longer and still gave me some harvestable crops, which I thought was pretty neat and more realistic than all my crops dying at the same time. I didn't have to worry too much about money, and even though there were random events that would happen, such as rats eating my crops or a thief stealing something from my farm, I still made major profits from my crops that allowed me to focus on other things besides survival. I started to upgrade my weapons and armors and worked towards upgrading my tools. I went off exploring the map and discovering new landmarks. Some landmarks have quests attached to them, which I think is super awesome. One of the quests led me to a brewery that had clues hidden around as to the fate of the residents. This quest ended up spawning another quest that I didn't resolve yet at this point. There were lots of things to explore, and I really liked unlocking new landmarks on the map. There are camps scattered around, so you don't always have to go back to your farm if you're far away, letting you continue your exploration without cutting it short whenever your stamina was depleted for the day. While out exploring, I learned how to fight better. The combat is still pretty clunky, but I learned to just get out of range of my attackers and look for an opening to strike when they came closer to me and drop their guard. During fights, stamina is quite important since you can't swing your weapon if you don't have any stamina. Therefore, it's a delicate dance of staying out of the opponent's range while I'm regenerating stamina and then striking when there's an opening. When I'm able to do this right, I don't get hit at all, so combat no longer felt like such an insurmountable hill. Of course, there were still enemies that I try to be careful around. I learned that there are some villagers that will help you fight, such as the guards, so sometimes I would lure enemies into town to elicit some help. This strategy is not always so helpful though, since I literally had 3 guards assisting me at one point, and the monsters still managed to knock me out. Luckily, Mirthwood is pretty forgiving as you just wake up at your homestead on the same day with less costs money, so there's not really a big penalty for dying. You just have to go back to where you were before you got knocked out, and your health is still pretty low for a few days, so it'll take some time to recover if you don't use any healing potions. At around 6.5 hours, I made it to my first festival, and I really loved how they're set up in this game. Festivals will happen over the course of a few days, so if you're far away or out exploring, you do have some time to come back and celebrate. This was magical for me since it really felt like such a big event. The whole town is decorated, the villagers are out celebrating. I had previously tried to chat up the villagers before with quite little success. Mostly they would get upset at me for even thinking about talking to them, so most of my interactions have been just greeting them, giving them a quick wave when I see them, and then moving on. However, the festival really inspired me to learn how to chat properly with them. Mirthwood deploys a life sim element to the chatting system where you can choose from a variety of different options like I mentioned. Through more experimentation, I learned that villagers like to talk about specific type of topics more than others. My first friend, Gianna, liked to talk about intellectual and deep topics, while other folks wanted to debate the politics of bugs and drinking at the tavern. I like the life sim elements of this as you can chat with the villagers more than once a day until they eventually get really tired of you and end the conversation. And then you try it again another day and hopefully you're more successful. Building up relationships in the game will change how villagers address you whenever you walk by, and some of them will even give you items in the mail if you become friendly enough. A lot of them were definitely hostile and not very friendly when I first arrived, but they were slowly singing a different tune as I continued to try to engage them in conversation. I gained a few skill levels in charisma due to my diligent chatting excursions. The skill system in Mirthwood is based on the actions that you take, so if you want to gain a skill point in an area, then you have to do it repeatedly until the skill levels up. My farming skill was super high at this point because I spent a lot of time farming, while I didn't spend a lot of time using my bow and arrows, so I didn't even unlock the ranged attack skill tree yet, and my melee skill tree is still pretty low comparatively. Once you unlock a level, then you get the corresponding buff, and every few levels you can get cards to equip in order to get additional buffs. Right now, I'm only able to hold one card from all the ones I've unlocked, but I'm sure that once I'm able to hold more, then I can mix and match whatever buffs I want for whatever I'm doing. In order to get more card slots, you have to trade in fable feathers that you find around the world to an NPC who will upgrade either your inventory or your card slots, so it's just a matter of exploring a little bit more in order to gain these perks. I ended the 10 hours exploring the marsh area to the south of town. I was still having a lot of fun at 10 hours. Nothing felt too grindy or tedious, in the sense where if I felt that things were getting stale, I could always switch focus and do something else. If farming was getting a bit choresome, then I could go exploring. If I got tired of fighting bandits, then I could go decorate my homestead or chat up the locals instead. The switch of pace really helped with keeping the game fresh for me. I'm still working towards getting my first horse so I could explore faster and upgrading all my tools to at least iron level. Between trying to accomplish my goals, fighting off bandits and monsters while trying to get to my destination, and completing quests, I had tons of things to do and lots to look forward to. "10 minutes shy of 29 hours, I made it back to spring. I spent a lot of time fixing up my homestead in the winter and also completing quests that I have been putting off all year long. I explored a lot more towards the end of autumn, and in the winter time, eventually made it to Gray Harbor Town on the easternmost of the map. I had 2 cows and a chicken, although I wanted more, but a lot of the animals were pretty expensive, and my cash farm came to a complete halt once winter hit. And I really could no longer rely on steady income of crops to sustain my spending habits, so that's pretty much the main reason I decided to get off my homestead and explore the world a bit more. You can traverse the entire map in less than a day if you beeline straight for the coast, or stop in the various campsites along the way to extend the journey. Usually, I would be away from my homestead for 3 to 4 days, and nothing is out of the ordinary when I return. I managed to get a cat and a dog to take care of my farm, as the dogs will chase away the thieves that try to steal things from me, and if I had any crops, the cats will catch the rats that try to eat them. During my adventures, I continued the main story a little bit more and unlocked the shrine offerings. There are 4 shrines across the world map, which require specific items to be offered up. If you complete a shrine, it will unlock a portal. However, I haven't been able to unlock any portals yet at the end of my year. Instead, I was busy trying to build up my relationship to hopefully score a spouse. I was pretty well known now throughout the lands from completing a bunch of quests to help people from all corners of the map, and my charisma was increasing at a higher rate than before due to my cards that I had equipped. However, it was still pretty slow getting my specific person to open up. Emmerich just did not like it when I made any moves on him for an entire season, it seems. We eventually found a good groove, but it wasn't enough to secure a proposal at the end of the year, unfortunately. I was pretty curious to see what the wedding and marriage system would look like, but I was unable to find out in the time that I had. I also was dealing with many random events that were popping up across the world. One town would be raided by bandits, another had a vermin plague, and then there would be werewolves wandering around during a full moon. I really loved when the random events popped up because it broke through the routine and gave me something different to do for a little bit of time, since some of them were all-day affairs. Before I knew it, a year had snuck up on me while I was trying to fulfill my goals of completing the shrine offerings, getting Emmerich to like me enough for a proposal, decorating my farm, gathering materials to upgrade my tools and equipment, and just living my life. So with that, here are some things that I liked and things that I wish were different. The decorating system in the game is super fun. All winter long, I went to collect materials so that I can make my homestead look nicer. I really appreciated having a selection of different furniture and materials to work with. I thoroughly enjoyed using the path brush tool, and I wish that more games would adopt this feature, since I think brushing on a path is way easier and more natural looking than laying down paths 1 pixel at a time. I like the random events in the game and actually wish that there were more of them. There are both random events that are announced in the world, and these are the bigger ones that take a day or so to complete, and there are little itty-bitty ones that the game will not announce and you just find them naturally while you're in the wild. It just feels really immersive, and it feels like the world is alive whenever I'm traveling and a thief tries to attack me on the road, or I encounter some bandits trying to take on a bear by themselves while I'm passing a forest. I like encountering wanderers and bandit camps to loot items, and these items will refresh so I can visit the camps again on another day to see what they have. It definitely feels like the people in this world have their own schedule and they are out there living their own life while you're trying to live yours as well. I like the gameplay loop in general. The game is very open-ended and you can do what you want. I spent a good chunk of the year farming and making money, but that doesn't mean that I had to. I could have explored a little bit of the world and made money by selling things that I found, looted, or hunted in the wild instead. The main story doesn't really impede you from exploring most of the map, and there are plenty of camps everywhere so you can rest to regain stamina as needed. Even if you have animals, they are pretty self-sufficient, and I haven't had to feed them at all during the winter time while I focused on exploring. So if you just want to live your best farming life, you definitely can. And if you don't want to farm at all, you definitely can as well. I like that you can hire NPCs to help you gather materials. So if you have a lot of money, then you don't have to gather materials yourself anymore. This is super useful when all I wanted to do was explore the world. I like the skill card system where you can choose which skill to equip, and you can expand your card slots so you have more than one active skill at a time. There are other games that give you a choice of what skill you want to focus in when you level up, such as whether you want to have a higher chance of getting more crops or more ores, and it will lock you out of the other option once you make a choice. I prefer being able to switch off and on what skill I want so that I can equip properly when I change my focus from either farming to mining or fighting and talking to the locals. Had I known that continuing the main story quest would unlock the shrines, I would have probably done it sooner. That being said, I don't know whether I would have been able to actually do it sooner, since there are enemies that you would have to outmaneuver who are pretty strong in order to get items that they're guarding, or at least survive a few hits from them while you're going into the biomes that they live in. I would probably suggest to keep lots of different items and make lots of chests to hold them so that you can complete the collections earlier once you get strong enough to continue the main story. I wish wish there was a way to buy and sell more than 10 items at a time. You have to break up your big purchases and sellable items, which is a bit annoying since the items stack for more than 10 in your inventory, so I'm not really sure why there's a limit. Also, when you're buying or selling a stack of 10, it will reset once you make a purchase, so you have to click the little icon to increase the quantity back to 10 to purchase another stack. I love how the festivals last for a few days, and it's just super cool to see the whole town decorated, but I would love to see more variety on what you can do during the festival time. Right now, you can buy items and furniture that are specific to the festival at the vendor and play a little mini game where you had to find a specific item all over town. There isn't a lot of variety, unfortunately, so I'm hoping to see more. I know recently the game just added jousting, so I am very excited to see how the festival get expanded in the game in the future. The game is incredibly buggy at some points. As I mentioned during my playthrough, the game got the update which added jousting. I was super excited for this, but it almost ended my ability to continue playing the game. The jousting was stuck in an endless loop that was not working very well. I had to press the unstuck button multiple times to eventually be free of it. I really thought that I would not be able to continue playing the game because of that. In another example, I bought a celestial stag from the Yuletide event for 4,000 gold because it is so majestic, only to now have a mount that does not move. It is stationary and just glides across the map, so I totally spent all my hard-earned money for nothing since I went back to riding my brown horse after that. There's also instances of monsters disappearing during combat or swats of enemies that I had previously dispatched, making their death animations again when I leave the vicinity and return. It all is a very big buggy mess, so I know that for some people this might ruin their enjoyment of the game. Just be prepared that if you do play Mirthwood, that you're going to encounter a bug sooner or later. I definitely want to keep playing Mirthwood whenever the new Seafarers expansion comes out. Right now, even though I have bundles to complete, I believe that I played enough of the game to be satisfied to put it down for the time being, since beyond the bundles, I don't have much to do in the world right now. However, I think once the expansion is released, I can focus on whatever the new content there is, in addition to gathering items needed for the bundle. I really like the game because it is very unique in being a medieval open sandbox life simulation game. I don't think there's many out there that have the same vibes that Mirthwood has at this point. I think that you would really like the game if you're willing to just live in this world and accept that it will be a buggy mess at times. Personally, I think the gameplay is super fun and there are always goals that I wanted to reach, which made the days fly by. You might not like this game if you're more focused on the farming aspect only, but it's definitely doable to just farm and avoid combat as much as possible. Since I was very weak in the beginning, I spent most of my time running away from encounters and making money on my farm, so I wasn't forced to fight if I didn't want to. However, the farming mechanic is pretty basic for the genre, so if that's the main focus for you, then the $24.99 USD price tag might be a bit steep for that. Well, there you have it. What do you think of Mirthwood? Is this the game for you? Are you interested in trying it out after learning a bit more about my experiences? Let me know in the comments what you think about the game. If you like what I do and you want to see more, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. I love doing reviews and I hope to continue doing them for a long time, so hopefully more people will be able to see my content and find their next fun game to play. I'm going back to trying to propose to Emmerich one more time, so I'll see you in my next video. This has been a 10-1-10-1 review. Take care, bye.